in our second part of our holiday series. We're very excited for this one. We have great speakers today, so you're in for a treat. Today we're gonna talk about how you can master your Friday and holiday inventory plan. And so some of the things that we're gonna cover in today's agenda are here. So we're Chris and Chris are gonna talk about how you can understand your supply chain, optimize your PPC campaigns, manage excess inventory, and basically just get you ready and prepped for a successful Q4. And then at the end, if you guys have any questions, we're gonna have a quick 5 to 10 minute Q&A session. So please send those questions in so that Chris and Chris can get to them at the very end. And if you are here for our first part of the holiday series, then you're already familiar with our console. But here's just a quick refresher in case this is the first time you're joining us for a webinar. So you have various different boxes on your screen that you can interact with. So in the question box, you can obviously send in your questions for panelists. Then in the attendee chat, you can chat with our audience, and you can also chat with us in case any issues or any other comments may come up. We have a quick survey there that if you guys can help us with answering, that would be perfect. And then you have a brief intro into our speakers. And you can also claim at any time during the webinar your free advertising audit with Mayan. We're going to talk about our audit right at the very end more and give you more details into what that entails. And then you can also book a call with one of our experts. So if you're ready to get your business going and started and ready to launch it to new heights of success, and you can book that call right away. And we also have this ebook for you guys. So we have the ultimate guide to radical FBA growth. This is everywhere, or you will have everything that will prepare you to have a perfect product launch. So this is also a great time if you're thinking about launching new products in the next year or in Q4. This is the best ebook that you can download. You can scan that QR code right there, or you can also click on a box that's going to pop up on your screen at the very end of our webinar. So if you're interested in that, then obviously download that. And we want to get to know you. So just drop into the chat, where are you from? How long have you been selling with Amazon? What you guys sell? So we really want to get to know you and make this as tailored to you guys as possible. And then Chris Compian is going to come in and talk about who Mayan is.
Yeah, so if you haven't heard about Mayan, we help anybody selling on Amazon with analytics, advertising, and inventory optimization. We found that advertising and inventory is really the engine that helps any sellers grow. We got started by 4 MIT co-founders, I'm being one of them. Our CTO actually majored in aeroastro, so he's a literal rocket scientist. So that definitely speaks to the complexities that are dealt with within the Amazon APIs, et cetera, in terms of what we're building. And another differentiator for us is that we have Amazon experts such as Chris Sawicki joining here on our customer success team that basically have either been Amazon seller themselves, currently an Amazon seller, or have worked on other Amazon selling brands and have deep experience working at aggregators, et cetera. So definitely happy to share about mine and some strategies that we have for the Q4 coming up.
Awesome. And Chris already gave you guys an intro into who our speakers today are, but we have Chris Compian here. He's obviously our CEO and one of the 4 co-founders of Mayan. And after he graduated from the MIT, he worked in various startups in the ad tech and ed tech space. So he has tons of experience in this space, and he has worked alongside sales teams to make positive impacts on SMBs and enterprise businesses. And Chris Sawicki is our account manager here at Mayan. He's also an Amazon seller, so he knows everything that being an Amazon seller entails. He started his own private label brand and did 6 figures in its first year. And he now shares his expertise with other sellers here at Mayan to help them grow as well. So without any further ado, let's take it away, guys.
Yeah, so I think one of the biggest things that anybody who's getting ready for Q4 is just planning ahead and looking at the data. As a company, we're very data-driven. That's what we definitely recommend for our customers in terms of making sure that you don't go out of stock, especially during this prime selling season. So with that, whenever you're looking back at your last several orders, you're going to look at different components that incorporate into your lead time: production time, shipping, and check-in time. Whenever you're looking at the last few periods, you're going to want to look at the average, the median, et cetera, but also take note, if you have the data from last year, whenever you're looking for the next shipment, if there were any delays, maybe there's some seasonality. Most folks are familiar with the Chinese New Year and the little bit of a lag that typically happens early on in the year if you're sourcing from China, but there might be differences depending on where you're sourcing your products from. So you always want to look at historical data to really get an understanding. And even if you have, let's say, 10 days of each of production time, 10 days of shipping time, 10 days of check-in time, that might be your average, but you also want to be aware of giving yourself a little bit of leniency and making sure, all right, even if it is on average 30 days, maybe you want to give yourself a little bit of a buffer, let's say 40, 45 days, just so you can have everything taken into account in case there's any hiccups. Chris, I don't know if you have any stories from that perspective on your end.
Yeah, so one thing to just take in consideration is just plan ahead. I always like to be, ship my stuff in, a little too early, than have those lags and have any opportunities to run out of stock. We want to avoid that at all costs. So I'd rather have stuff sent in just slightly ahead of time. But yeah, you nailed it with looking at historical data when it comes to lead times, because those fluctuate year to year or month to month.
Yeah, and there's a lot of components of why that go into the lead time analysis, as well as why it's important. There's a lot of metrics in it. I would say the number one that I'll call out here really is cash flow and forecasting. So we have an inventory optimization product that helps with the demand forecasting side, taking into account a lot of these variables, but really it comes down to cash flow. You don't want to over order and then you have, again, over invested a little bit too much, and now you need to really get those products, turning them into cash, or on the opposite side, if you under order, that has its own problems. So you really want to be as accurate as possible. Give yourself a range and understand that it is, at the end of the day, something that you're going to continue to iterate on as you get more data points throughout the life of your business. With that in mind, the engine that we found to really help sellers grow, Amazon has become an ads dominant platform. It's a pay-to-play platform. The Amazon ads business is surpassing $40 billion this year, and Amazon total GMVs surpassed 600 billion. So there is a good component of it that is ads driven. There's some pros and cons to that for sellers. Naturally, the con is the cost, but the pro is that as you're launching new products, you're able to get your new products really up there in customers' eyes, at the top of search whenever they're searching for any adjacent keywords or products that are relevant to what you're selling. So that's definitely an opportunity that customers have to take into account when you're looking at driving your business forward. Whenever you do go out of stock, as we mentioned, if you under order, then you're going to be more likely to run out of stock, and that's going to lead to a decrease in sales velocity. Basically, you really want to make sure that as much as possible, Amazon kind of dings you a little bit for going out of stock, and you have a little bit of time to recuperate. It takes a little bit of time to recuperate afterwards with getting your sales velocity back up. So you definitely want to make sure that as much as possible, you take into account, again, the ordering correctly, but also on the ad side, there might be a strategy to slow down ad spend if your products are getting close to reorder time, or on the opposite side. If you're a bit overstocked, you might want to create more targeting, create more campaigns, but overall, optimize the pricing, et cetera. So there's a lot of factors at play in terms of getting the sales velocity right for your business. So yeah, there's some things that you can do. Another one that I'd call out is optimizing the product listing itself. Again, depending on, we recommend anywhere from 1 to 3 times a year in terms of just keeping that up. I've seen some customers that we work with actually optimize every season. So they'll optimize and keyword stuff the actual listing to take into account, hey, it's coming up with fall, then it'll be Halloween, then it'll be Thanksgiving and Christmas. And literally because of their product was not seasonal in that respect, but it was something to call out for customers that were looking at it at a season by season basis. So optimizing your listing as you need to really improve your conversion rate is something to also keep track of.
Awesome. So yeah, I'm just going to take over here and talk about other ways we can kind of slow down velocity if you're at risk of running out of stock. So when you have an item that's at risk of running out of stock, you still want to get sales on your account, right? One way to do that is to drive and nudge sellers into some of your other products. There's multiple ways to do that. In this example here, kind of alluding to what Chris just mentioned about getting your listings really indexed correctly and your product detail pages really dialed in. This is actually A+ content. So down below here, it shows the Blink cameras and it has the different types of ones that they're selling. And you can see the differences between the three. One thing in here to note though is if you, let's say the $34.99 is at risk of running out of stock, if you have this A+ content here, then you have a chance to upsell to the $79.99 price point one or the $99 price point. Another thing that you can also take advantage of on the ad side is advertising some of your cheaper products on your own listing. So it's kind of a defensive strategy to advertise on your own products to begin with. But if you have, a higher priced item that's at risk of running out of stock, you can really start pushing the products that are cheaper. So another thing you can do if you're at risk of running out of stock, the number one goal is to restock as soon as possible for obvious reasons. One thing I would recommend is, let's say you're sourcing from China and that lead time is 3 months. I would definitely keep a surplus amount in your 3PL or in your house, depending on what level of business you own. That way you can restock the Amazon FBA inventory relatively a lot quicker than the 3 months that it would take to get it from China. Another thing is just being really proactive in your forecasting and your inventory. It's very important on Amazon to be proactive in general and not reactive. You don't want to, be at risk of running out of stock and then have to scramble to slow down your velocity, raise your pricing, stop your ads. Because even doing that, it is better than running out of stock, but you will lose momentum on your ranks. So at the end of the day, like when it comes to almost everything Amazon related, it's very, very important that you're proactive. So you're thinking, months ahead. Speaking of months ahead, sorry to cut you off, Chris, but just want to let you know, like when you should start preparing for Q4, it should be around July to August. So you have that lead time there to get all your stuff in.
Yeah, no, I was just going to jump in and say thinking ahead and then also even planning more granularly once you get to this prime time season. We work with the top 10 seller making $100 million a year just on Amazon alone with thousands of SKUs at a time across multiple accounts. So the complexity definitely picks up when you're dealing with those kinds of metrics. But specifically during this prime time season, there was a situation a couple years ago where they were looking to sell Christmas cards, Christmas greeting cards. And basically with that, naturally nobody's going to want to buy Christmas cards after December 22nd, basically the weekend before, whenever that is before Christmas. And they looked at their own analysis. They said, oh, we'll actually slow down and actually just completely pause the ads because we want to let the organic sales carry the day and carry it all the way through going out of stock. Because in that scenario, they were okay going out of stock, which made sense. We paused the ads. But then what ended up happening was there was actually a little bit of a slowdown in sales velocity. Again, there is a symbiotic relationship between paid and organic sales. And so the fact that they paused ads, it's not just like, oh, the organic will stay constant. It'll actually decrease because of that. Again, like very positive relationship between ads and organic in terms of sales that you would drive. So essentially, that was early December, not even a week later, they said, actually, we need to re-enable the ads because we need to get back that sales velocity to sell out before we get towards the Christmas period. So again, it's just something that it's very much a live situation. Obviously, that's a bit of an extreme example for a customer that wants to go out of stock, and then B, selling that type of a seasonal product. But that just goes to show that, again, while Prime Day is coming up in October, that's 2 intense days. Later on with Black Friday, Cyber Monday, Christmas, it's a bit of a longer game to play in terms of optimizing and keeping just track of all the moving parts accordingly.
Yep. So I do want to talk about our product and our inventory optimizing dashboard here at Mayan. It really helps sellers, and myself included, understand kind of where the items are at. So what I mean by that is what we like to do is look at the velocity of the current rate of selling, but also look at the historical data. So let's say you sold 3x in Q4 last year on an ASIN. What we like to do is plan ahead. Again, being proactive is the key here when it comes to inventory management. But also, again, you don't want to send too much in and get excess inventory, which we'll talk about here in a second. But on our inventory dashboard, it gives us access to understand your current days of supply, and it gives a recommended action plan of when to replenish the inventory. We also have automations in place where if we know that a specific ASIN is going to run out of stock, then our automation automatically pauses that ASIN inside that campaign. So we can save you money by not advertising on that ASIN if we know that you're going to run out of stock, because that will prolong that you are in stock longer and also save you money up front by not paying for the advertising itself. As soon as that ASIN comes back in stock, or it's at a good comfortable level, then our system automatically turns back on those campaigns so that there's not any lag time in between having an ad on and having an ad off. Lastly, on our inventory optimizing dashboard, we also have a profitability dashboard. So it'll kind of show you exactly how profitable each ASIN is. But yeah, going to talk about excess inventory because this is also very important. So one thing that I see a lot of is, people getting overexcited, seeing, numbers from last year and saying, okay, well, we did 3x last year, we're going to shoot for 10x this year. And then what happens is, they get stuck with a bunch of inventory. That hurts you for a lot of reasons, primarily being Amazon charges you a lot for storage fees. But as soon as an item sits in storage for longer than a year, you get charged with long-term storage fees. And those are very, very expensive. For reference, we have a client of ours that, they have cash flow issues, right? And we were trying to dig into all of their FBA fees and figure out what's going on. They had one ASIN that only had around 100 units in there that was charging them $2,000 a month just because it was sitting there for long-term storage. So it is actually way more cost effective to send that inventory back to them than it was to try to sell through it because it was bleeding them money. I can talk about personal experience about poor demand forecasting. I've done it. I've been on both ends of the spectrum, and it's very difficult to get right without any tools or any help. So, I've launched products before where, I had a 6-month plan and we ended up selling out in 3 months. And then my lead times took forever to get it back. So one thing to note there is you don't want to understock, you don't want to overstock, because if you overstock, then you're stuck having to try to sell these. And then sometimes when you're trying to sell them, then you're ending up selling them at a loss. And then if you understock, then you obviously you lose all your momentum. So using a tool like ours is very beneficial for that because it kind of helps understand, okay, this is your days of supply at the current velocity you're selling, and this is the current inventory you have. This is when I would recommend to send more in. Anything you want to add to that, Chris?
Yeah, I mean, on the other side, there are some advantages if you do have to lean into one or the other when you're looking at a range, right? On the over side, you are going to get probably better cost of goods sold. You're going to be able to have, whenever you're ordering larger quantities, your cost per unit might go down. So again, these are parts of the analyses that you have to run in terms of your specific business case. And then on the other side, if you go under stock, you're going to have to reorder. So you're going to have to be more on top of it to reorder more quickly, kind of to Chris's story. So you definitely have to just be more on top of it. But then again, one of the slight pros is that you do have, you're not investing as much in terms of that cash. And so you have less of a cash flow issue in terms of, oh, wow, I have X tens of thousands in stock. I need to get it into cash flow to pay bills, et cetera. So again, every business is going to have their own use case. So between whether you want to err on one side or the other, it's definitely going to be based on your own circumstances. So definitely, to Chris's point, leaning into technology, leaning into the data side is really where it's going to help you just make the best decision for your business.
Yep, couldn't say it better myself. So ways to manage excess inventory on Amazon is, you know, you only have so many levers you can do, right? The first lever is lowering your prices. That makes sense if you can be cheaper than the competitors next to you. Amazon's a very, you know, supply and demand marketplace. So if they see something cheaper, a lot of customers kind of gravitate towards cheaper items. That's not always the case. However, if you do lower your price, that is a way to kind of, you know, increase sales velocity. Another thing too is if you have excess inventory on one specific ASIN, but all your other ASINs are selling well, or a handful of your other ASINs are selling well, it is a good strategy to bundle that item with the other ASINs that are selling well. That can give momentum to the ASIN that isn't selling well. There's also opportunity there if they complement each other enough to maybe variate the ASINs together, so it drives more traffic to both ASINs instead of just the one. The other way to kind of, you know, move more units is sell on another marketplace. So you can, by using MCF, so multi-channel fulfillment, you can connect your Amazon account to eBay and other marketplaces to kind of push more sales that way. Another like kind of worst case scenario is create an Amazon removal or disposal order. So the removal order is a little pricey because you have to pay for each unit you send back to either your 3PL or to yourself. And then disposing it costs as well. So you'll be charging per unit to dispose of it. Lastly, there's lightning deals as well. I would highly recommend that you start with lowering your pricing or doing a lightning deal to try to recoup some of your money and not just send it back or dispose of it. So yeah, this is just an example of the bundle. So let's say, you know, one product's not selling well, but the other product is selling great. You can make it a bundle, especially if they're complementary to each other. That way you can move more units on the one that does not sell. And yeah. I think you're muted, Chris.
And so, yeah, I was just saying that basically right now it's not only the time to predict how much you're going to be ordering, but also getting it ready to be in stock. So these are the recommended dates for getting your inventory in. We shared another slide before in terms of more Amazon specific deadlines. So overall, you know, again, basically understanding your inventory lead time is important as we're approaching Prime Day in October, the second year that Amazon's ever doing that, in 2 weeks. And then naturally, we were just talking about this, Q4 comes every year, so no surprise, Black Friday, Cyber Monday, Christmas. So ideally, everybody's already gotten their units shipped in. I know some companies actually get ready for Q4 and Q1, just in terms of ordering, getting everything in-house, et cetera. So again, every business is going to have their own unique situation, whether you have to plan a couple weeks in advance, a couple months, or even in some cases, again, a full year. Just really depends on the business. And so within that, again, just ordering enough to meet demand. If you have some products that you can, again, aren't seasonal and you're okay to roll over into Q1, then naturally, as Chris alluded to, with having some in your own warehouse, et cetera, there's definitely some opportunities to have the multi-channel approach as well. So making sure that you have enough to take advantage of this prime season, when for some customers it is their peak season. They'll see sales go up anywhere from 2 to 10x during the November-December period. So really want to make sure that you're there to take advantage and really maximize the opportunity.
Yeah, and just to tag in as well, it says this on the site here, but it is a really good alternative. Let's say you have 2 months worth of inventory currently and your lead time's 3 months. Air shipping is a really great alternative to just kind of float you by. Obviously, it's very expensive to do air shipping, so something that will cut into your margins dramatically. But you know, if you can stay in stock longer, that can help you threefold down the road.
Perfect. And then, yeah, Chris, if you want to take us home with how to resolve stranded inventory.
Yep. So reasons why FBA inventory may be stranded is it could be a restricted ASIN or a suspended listing. This list can kind of go on and on. There's multiple different ways of resolving these errors. Typically, what I've seen most of the time when I see stranded inventory, it's because of a suspended listing. That can be down to a million different issues. So a common issue I see a lot of the times is a brand registry issue or someone filing a complaint on your brand. Typically, it's a simple conversation with Amazon, figuring out why your FBA inventory is stranded, and they give you options to solve it. Most of the time, though, in my experience, like I said, it's typically brand registry related. So then you would want to make sure you're going to your brand registry and getting all your ducks in a row. Make sure you have your trademark available and to show and explain that, you do own these products, you are allowed to sell these products, and that prevents that from happening. The other thing I see a lot of times as well is not cooperating with Amazon's guidelines in terms of conditions, which, as we all know, they have plenty of. So typically when that happens, they might make a new rule the first of the month, and then your listing gets suspended, and you got to figure out what the rule is. Take out a specific keyword they don't like. For instance, they don't like anything that ends in IDE, so like pesticide, herbicide, or anything like that. We've learned the hard way with, making sure just skirting around that with using different language. Cool.
All right. Awesome, guys. So we can open it up now to some questions. We have just a few questions here. So the first one is, how should you estimate the right amount of inventory to send in for the holiday season?
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, if you have year-over-year data, that's definitely the first place to check. See what your sales grew from, maybe September, October to November, December. Because if you've been on a growth phase, which most of our customers are, then you might want to have a similar multiple in terms of, all right, yeah, we doubled sales. So this year, we're going to be able to ideally sell at around 1.5 to 2.5x, and basically just estimate based on your business constraints. And if you don't have that, then yeah, it's going to be a little bit more difficult. And again, it's up to your business perspective based on your personal constraints, your business constraints. If you want to be leaning more on the lower side of the range or be more aggressive, as Chris mentioned, again, he's in his story, when he predicted 6 months, it ended up selling in 3. So you really want to make sure you're just being open to any and all scenarios, and again, being aware of some of the pros and cons of both sides. So definitely looking at historical data first and foremost. And then if you don't have that, I would lean into even using, looking into market share analysis and see if you can predict based on other competitors where your business will land based on your market share. So definitely taking a look at any data that you can and leaning into that is what I would recommend. Chris, I don't know if you have any insights there as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think just making sure that you're looking at competitors, like increase in sales for a similar product of yours, that can kind of tell you roughly, what lift that they see, and then what lift you expect to see, at least by percentage wise, as long as you're playing somewhere in the same ballpark as them. I've launched products in January. It's a typical time that I like to launch products. So I don't know how well it's going to do in Q4 until we're in Q4, right? So again, I do look at competitors' data to kind of see what they're doing and how they're performing.
Awesome. All right. And then another question is, what's the best way to deal with slow moving or stagnant inventory during the holiday season?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Sorry. So it really just depends on what the situation with it is going on with ASIN and like how much inventory you have. So you have a handful of levers that you can pull yourself. Obviously, it kind of starts with the free option, which is making sure your listing is completely indexed correctly. It has a good back-end search terms. All your top most relevant keywords are appearing in your titles and your bullet points. Then from there, the first thing I would like to look at is pricing. And look at what the competition around you is priced at. If you are 30, 40, 50% above the competition around you, that can really explain why, your items are much more slow moving. Because like I mentioned earlier, Amazon's a very supply and demand. People are always looking for the best deals. After that, so if you are priced competitively, but you're still not moving, that's where ads really, really come into place. So with that being said, I would recommend really understanding where your ads are at. So making sure you have full coverage within your ads and using sponsored product, sponsored display, sponsored brand ads, and making sure that you're competitive on the bidding. Maybe even paying a premium for top of search so you appear top of search more. 64% of clicks go to the first 3 items displayed on Amazon. So you really want to make sure that you are at the top there.
Yeah, and actually, you brought up a good point with some of the strategies with regards to Prime Day coming up, and obviously the holidays as well, that people are looking for deals. So whether you're charging X dollars, and you mentioned if your competitor's 30, 40, 50% lower than yours, then applying a discount and having that strike through price is definitely going to see catch the consumer's eyes. And yeah, we actually have a case study on our website, if you haven't taken a look yet, to see that there's definitely a strategy during this period to apply a Prime Day eligible discount, and incorporating that with the overall holistic strategy of having enough inventory to take care of increased demand during this Prime Day period. In our recent Prime Day in July, we had a customer that actually sold 13x a normal day. So usually it's sometimes 2 to 4, and in this case, it went up to 13 times the previous week on what an average day looks like. So, just being aware of, hey, we're going to apply discount, Prime Day eligible, make sure the inventory is in stock. We're going to optimize advertising accordingly to really maximize this opportunity. And you can really, again, take care of 2 weeks in one day. So really maximizing the opportunity is, especially during this Prime Day coming up in October, is something that you need to check it out for. And yeah, we have that case study that highlights those insights.
Yeah, definitely. You guys can check out the case study in our website. It's full of great tips. And then last question is, what's the best approach to handle returns and refunds during the holiday season?
Yeah, so I guess the first thing would be just be prepared for it. You're going to see a lot more returns in Q4 than any other time of year, not just because, you're selling, your velocity is higher, and let's say your average return rate's 5%. If you're selling more, that means you're going to get a lot more returns, right? But also Q4 is gift giving season. So a lot of people like to buy multiple things at once, and then they return the stuff that they don't like the best, or they buy 2 similar products and then return one or the other. So as far as that goes, I recommend obviously just being ready for it. It typically, a lot of times it falls into late December into January. But one thing I would do is try to contact customers and figure out what's causing these returns. If it's, unwanted by customer, hopefully the customer was decent enough to not rip open the packaging and destroy the item. If they do, destroy the item, or if they send back the wrong item, you can file an A through Z claim. Make sure you can try to get some of your money back on those returns if it's unsellable. If it is sellable, then it returns to inventory, and you're good to go. But another thing is, you can always reach out to customers too if they're respond to customers that have issues with their returns, and figure out kind of what the root cause is. Another thing, again, on the topic of being proactive, is a lot of sellers like to put inserts in their items, stating like, if there's any problems with your items, be sure to, you can contact me here, or contact our company here. That can kind of circumvent some returns from happening in the first place.
Great. Thank you so much, guys. Those are all the questions that we had. And yeah, now, Chris Sawicki, can you give our audience a bit of an in-depth view to our audit?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so our audit is a great opportunity for anyone that is running ads on Amazon, or even not running ads on Amazon. We can have a conversation too. Basically, what we like to figure out is what is working for you and what is not working for you, and how to figure out what your pain points are, and kind of understand what the issues are in your account. And then we provide examples of what we would do differently and how we can basically increase your account and make sure that your ads are performing the best that they can be. You know, every time we do an audit, I find something that, you know, there's typically something that's always wrong within it in someone's advertising campaigns. A lot of the times, though, it's not necessarily something that they're doing wrong. It's just missed opportunities altogether. But typically how it works is, you know, you book an audit with us. We connect our account so we can look into your data. It's view only access, so we can't touch anything within it. And then we figure out, again, just your pain points, and we go down the list and kind of tell you exactly what we would do and how much, you know, wasted spend you're using, and how we would utilize that wasted spend elsewhere and try to grow your business.
Yep. And you guys can claim that in the box that you see on your right side of the screen. You can claim your free audit. And something that's really important to us, and Chris knows this as well because he's also an Amazon seller, is that our privacy is, or your privacy is very important to us. And so any data you share with us remains confidential and nothing will be stored with us. We just analyze it to identify all the areas of growth that Chris just talked about. So if you're interested in claiming a free audit, you can do that right now, or you can also visit our website and we have a place there for you to claim that as well. And that was pretty much it. Thank you guys so much for your insights, your expertise. I hope our audience took away some really great insights, and we hope your guys are prepped for Q4. And if you guys have any questions, then don't hesitate to reach out through our website. We're here to help you guys have the best Amazon business that you can have. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.